You've never seen Guardians of the Galaxy, Brooks?
I am Groot. No, I haven't.
Okay. Brooks Austin, the film guy, joining us here on TexAgs Live, breaking down a little A&M rushing attack. You can also check out his work as he covers Georgia for the SI Network. What's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. I got too much football to watch to be out here watching Guardians of the Galaxy, to be honest with you.
Dude, you were like 9 when that came out.
I was 9?
Like, you were a kid when that came out. It was 2012, 2014.
Oh, dude, I was a junior in high school at that point.
Oh, man, you're old.
I was an adult. I was driving around getting into miscellaneous activities. We were up and about at that time in my life.
Well, at that point in 2014, I was a father of 4. Anyway, let's move on. Why will A&M lead potentially the SEC in rushing? What is your main? Do you have a great video? I recommend not only listening to this interview but checking out his post that I think it was yesterday. But give us some reasons why.
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. First of all, not too much of a projection from last season, right? They finished second in the league last year in rushing, while trying to figure out who the hell their quarterback was last year. They were a dynamic and explosive run game with Marcel Reed, tried to rely a little bit more on the explosive pass game when Connor Weigman was in there, and they're kind of doing this he-ho-hum-haw, who's our guy routine last year, and still finished second in the league in rushing, only behind Tennessee, who, as long as Josh Heupel is there, Tennessee's going to run the football really, really well. I think a lot of people from the outside look at Tennessee's offense and think it's some kind of like spread, funning, gun, like throwing offense. No, buddy. They're going to run the rock out there at Tennessee, and they're always going to. But they lost Dylan Sampson, who I thought was the most underrated football player in this conference last year. Dylan Sampson was the primary reason, in my opinion, that Tennessee was a playoff team last year, and they're replacing him with Deshaun Bishop, who Deshaun Bishop's a good football player. Peyton Lewis, good football player. But Deshaun Bishop was a former walk-on, and I thought Dylan Sampson did more with less last year than anybody else in the conference. So I think Tennessee takes a step back, and I think Texas A&M takes a step forward. But more than that, guys, it's the personnel, right? You know this more than anybody, Nuno. They're returning a lot of offensive line production, but I think they've got the deepest running back room in college football. I know Notre Dame's is too deep. They got a really, really good superstar in Jeremiah Love. Number 24 is really, really good. I know Texas is deep. They got a bunch of football players. But I think Texas A&M has 4 high-quality SEC serviceable, winnable backs at the position in a sport where, like, guys, Ohio State's got 1. Ohio State's projecting James Peoples. That's one of the biggest rosters and best recruiting rosters in the sport. They don't have 4. Georgia doesn't have 4. They got 7 options. They don't have 4 answers. Texas A&M's the deepest, not to mention Collin Klein. I am really, really bullish on what Collin Klein is going to be able to do and what I am considering to be his first full year as an offensive coordinator. I know he got there last year, but I just told you, they were trying to figure out who they were last year. They just spent the last 8 months knowing who they are and figuring out how to be successful with that identity.
How much of it is going to be predicated on Marcel taking a step as a passer? Which, that's one of the things that, you hear that they'll do against them. All right, run on us. We're going to put everybody here until Marcel proves that he can throw on us, which, by the way, he proved he could throw last year, but that's somehow taken away from him.
It is. I mean, everyone gets too caught up in deep ball stats. I feel like nowadays, like, oh, how accurate are you on 25-plus yard throws? My question is, what do the 25-plus yard throws look like? Like, what am I asking you to do? Not what are the results? And I think what they were asking him to do when throwing the ball down the field last year was to hit vertical shots off of play action or off of RPO. They're difficult throws. They're 40 yards downfield in one-on-one man-to-man coverage, right? So I think you might take a step back in passing this year just because I don't think you're as big and as daunting as you were a year ago. Like, when I studied Texas A&M last year on film, I thought they were the biggest team in the conference. You basically lived in 12 personnel. You had 17 and 84 on the field at all times, right? And Noah Thomas was on the field. So every single down last year at A&M, you had 3 6'5" plus 220-pound plus weapons. This year, correct me if I'm wrong, Nuno, you're going to be relying on Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, 2 individuals who are not big. You know what I mean? Unless Jerome Lyles or Lyles or Miles, unless he gets healthy, that's your biggest threat outside, correct? In terms of size, right?
Yeah. Or Amari Niblack, the tight end, who might get a lot of passes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's an A&M show. We've been projecting the Niblack thing for 5 years now, okay? We've been projecting Niblack to be an impactful football player for a long time now. I believe in the skill sets. I always have. Can we see it? I'm the same way with a lot of the other names in this conference. Like, I know Georgia's wide receiver core is supposed to be talented on paper. Can I see it? Can y'all not lead the nation in drops? Can I see it? That's my thing with what's going on in some of these position groups.
Brooks, so I was reading some of the comments on your page. I chuckled because I understood the point. Like, when you're an internet commenter troll, like, you're going to find one thing and make that the whole basis of your argument. I thought it was at least a good talking point. One guy is like, you're projecting A&M to do this, but they rushed against one of the easiest defenses all season long until they played against Texas and Notre Dame. So when people are projecting A&M's rush total against a softer defense outside of Notre Dame and Texas, how do you respond to that?
A couple of things. One, they repeat the schedule this year. So if you thought last year's schedule was manageable and easy, they got the same one this year, just flipping the home and aways. Okay, so if the rush defenses that they played last year were porous, they probably going to be porous again this year. Also, if we're holding people to the standard of, well, what you do against Texas's defense last year, then everybody's going to suck. I'm just letting you know. Texas's defense last year, I thought was the best in the sport. Okay, I thought that from top to bottom, defensive line to safeties to corners, Texas had the best defense, bar none, last year. So, yeah, if that's the standard, Notre Dame close second. If that's the standard, everybody's going to be terrible. And I think that can be like, and I know what that is. That's fandom, that's rivalries, that's a Texas fan coming in, giving A&M fans some crap in the mentions. I know what that is. But in reality, again, if that was the standard, how do you perform against Texas? Then everybody stunk last year, apart from maybe Vandy, who was basically running the wishbone.
Brooks, is the Texas defense going to be as good as they were last year?
I mean, they tried to throw a bunch of bodies at it, right? Got the Shaw kid out of North Carolina. Got another defensive line transfer. But I don't know. I was really, really bullish on Texas's defensive line last year. Everybody knows about Collin Simmons. Everybody knows about Anthony Hill. I don't even know their names. I know their numbers. 88 was a freak last year. 45 was a freak last year. 90 was a freak last year. Okay, so like they had NFL, and I think all those guys were 3rd to 5th round picks. When we lose 4 or 5 of those bodies out of a position group that only plays 4 or 5 bodies, that's a lot to be losing, right? It's a lot to be losing. That being said, they've got an impactful football player at every single level, okay? They've got a great edge rusher in Collin Simmons. I think they've got the best off-ball linebacker in the sport in Anthony Hill, and everybody knows about Michael Taft. All right, but, you know, they did lose the Jim Thorpe Award winner at corner, and they did lose Andrew Makuba, who I felt like was the most underrated safety in this conference last year. So there's a lot there to replace, not to mention all the stuff offensively. They lost 2 NFL tackles, too.
Brooks, I want to ask you about Jackson Arnold. I talked to a couple folks that know him from his time at Oklahoma and how things are going at Auburn, 2 different guys. And what I'm hearing is that when things are going great, he's really good. But he needs things to go great. When you watch him on film, what stands out about Jackson Arnold?
So, like, even dating back to his high school tape, if you go watch, and that's his tape. That's his highlight tape. That's not what, you know, every game looks like. That's the best version of himself that he presents to the world. If you go even watch his high school highlight tape, there's not a lot of working through the progression, big dog. There's like, oh, is number 1 open? He's open. I'm going to throw it. If he's not, I'm going to run around and make some play happen. Well, run around, make some play happen don't happen in college football. We have to play the position. We have to read through progressions. And I saw some of those same problems pop up at Oklahoma last year. Granted, no help, 0. Like, porous offensive line, couldn't run the football effectively until they decided to run him 20 times a game. And the wide receiver unit was atrocious. So, like, not a ton of help out there. But you talk about it. If it's going good, he's good. If it's going bad, he's not. You know who else is the exact definition of that? His head football coach. Okay, when Jackson Arnold throws an interception to cost them a football game in the 4th quarter, which he will, by the way, because Hugh Freeze's offenses have lost the turnover battle 12 of his 13 years coaching. Hugh Freeze's offenses have turned the ball over 25-plus times, 8 of 13 seasons coaching football. They're going to turn it over. He's going to be negative towards Jackson. He's going to get in front of microphones and throw his quarterback under the bus. So that's always been my concern about Hugh Freeze. He did it to Bo Wallace. He did it to Peyton Thorne. The only person he didn't do it to was Caden Salter, and that's because they were up there at Liberty, Virginia, in Lynchburg. Nobody really cared unless he was coaching a football game in a gurney up in the stadium. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I don't expect it to be hunky-dory all the time at Auburn this year because that offense has never been consistently hunky-dory. They've always been consistently turnover-prone. It's what they do.
Last thing for you, Brooks. Carson Beck, overrated last year, underrated this year. Is that a fair assessment of him?
Well, I just think, like, I'm the film guy, right? That's what I do. I watch it on film. We just got done watching Georgia's offense from last year. It was a litany of problems. They did not execute at the rate a Georgia football team is supposed to. And honestly, it was rather frustrating. For someone who loves good football, watching Georgia play offensively last year I wanted to pull my hair out. I would feel the same way watching anybody else. If you're just lack of execution, not doing your job, I get sick watching you play. That's the way I felt about Georgia's offense at times last year. That being said, I don't steal a lot of takes from Danny Kanell, but I'm fitting them. All right, I'm about to steal a take from Danny Kanell. I was listening to Danny Kanell on Rosillo today, and I think he said, I've been covering Carson for 5 years. I think he said it best. Carson Beck is an elite football player. Like when you watch him in a vacuum on tape, elite, plays the position the right way, goes through his reads, deadly accurate, all right, serviceable athlete. But from an intangible standpoint, there's something missing. There's something missing there, okay? And how do I know that? Well, like Danny said on Rosillo today, did everybody watch the whole entire sideline get hyped for Gunnar Stockton this last year when he came in against Texas? The whole program talking about, we play hard for this guy. We love this guy. I'll die for 14. I never heard a word about that from Carson. Just, hey, he's a good football player. He's going to get us in the right play. He's going to control a lot at the line of scrimmage. But I didn't hear that intangible aspect about him. And by the way, I felt like that whole Miami football team lived off of intangibles and playmaking ability from Cam Ward last year. It wasn't just the dude threw for 4,200 yards and was a Heisman candidate. It was everybody knew we got a guy. And that does different things to your morale as a football team, right? Knowing that the quarterback is not just talented, but he carries himself like a dude. That stuff is really, really important. And I think sometimes Carson lacks that.
Brooks, great stuff, man. Make sure you check out his page. Tell everybody the YouTube and the Twitter handle.
It's right there, the Film Guy Network, at Brooks Austin BA on all social medias. Nuno, appreciate you for having me on, buddy.